Dzogchen, for example, speak about the second cause and the first cause. No, all these are the second cause, but the first cause is our true nature, that is unchangeable. No? And this, you see, we can connect the ancient spiritual tradition with the transpersonal vision. When we speak about the self is subject, has no space, no time. The self is like a mirror where everything happens, all the movement of the ego or the words, but the self is still and empty. Of course, this we can understand with mind, and then we have to practice. This is also the reason why in our times here in our class, I focus more on the practice than to the lecture, to the knowledge, because this you can do. These are the second cause, but if we get the first cause, we can understand better everything we read. And this process of awareness, of observing, seems beside from the world. But of course, this is not. If we are aware that we can observe our thought and we can observe our feeling and our actions, we simply are aware of it. This is a truth that we can do this. So it is being more skilled to face the world, observing. You can observe your will to merge into the world. You can observe your will to be angry, to fight. In that way, you see the true nature of what you are doing. And of course, normally when you see the true nature of what you are doing, you are less engaged, you are less identified. But this doesn't mean that you don't live in the world and you do the normal. This is the moment to use this question: who is rejecting? Which part of you is rejecting? Because we should remember, for example, in this case, when we reject something, we get the more reasonable justification to do it. Of course, there are a lot of people that use the spirituality to bypass the life and to but this is what you can see. These are the pitfalls of the path. If you don't use these, who is the part, the identification in you that is using this pretext for not enter better or deeper into this, that into this truth. When you see who is, when I enter in contact with that person that is rejecting, and I see her, and I face her, and I can dialogue with her, I can educate her, and give up the pretext. Yes, of course. The pitfall of this is bypass the world. I see it, I don't. You will end the transpersonal psychologies of Tarot. I would like to focus on the first chapter. The first chapter is about, this is something that is related also with this point of the observation, of the dialogue with the world, and so. This first chapter speaks about science. It is very interesting to me because it enters that conflict, we could say, among the science and the spirituality. And he say that historically, when science came exactly to say something more affordable than religion, the religion that was so polluted by mythological and wishful and dogmas and superstitious. So the science came up to say something truth or more truth than, and to verify the affirmation and try to share the knowledge and to let the people verify what you do. And in this way, for centuries, was, we could say, against the religion, and still is. But as we know, a new science, a new paradigm is happening. If you look historically, this process started around the 70s of the past century. More young people get detached by science or didn't like science anymore. This was, for example, for the discovery of state of consciousness. Imagine the atmosphere of the 70s, the 60s and the 70s, the experiences beyond the mind, the experiences of spirituality, the experiences of altered state of consciousness, as Tartre say, open up to this world that is what we are speaking about, the transpersonal. And also there were the discovery of the ancient tradition. For now, for you, it's normal today to meditate through Buddhist tradition, but in the 50s, in the 70s, nobody knew this, you know? So that moment, the 60s and the 70s, was the moment of discovery of all this. What for you now is something normal, for the young in the 70s was not. So the discovery of spirituality, of altered state of consciousness, thanks to psychedelics, thanks to also to marijuana and meditation, Buddhism mainly, Taoism and so, open up a world that we are calling transpersonal today, or spiritual. So if before the question was science against religion, then a third subject show up, the spiritual experiences that are not linked with the religious dogma, but open up another world of the state of consciousness. So how to manage it? Of course, imagine you into this in the city, knowing nothing and having the opportunity to experiment such mystical, ecstatic experience, transpersonal experiences. Of course, this bypass is something that becomes normal. This enthusiastic is something that against. Imagine that time, the Vietnam War, the racism, that opening up was something very important, and we are still into this process where science, religion, and spirituality have to find, and this we are doing thanks to transpersonal, integral transpersonal, these courses, they are trying to put together to manage these. Okay, thanks to the spiritual experiences, thanks to the discovery of shamanism, thanks to point of all the spiritual tradition, thanks to the transpersonal content, we know that the science, the mainstream science, doesn't work for it. What to do? So person like Charles Tartre is one of the main workers on this. You can find there the description of the state, the normal state of consciousness, that he called the discrete state of consciousness, and the altered state of consciousness, the non-ordinary state of consciousness, but I want to focus on this. We are, maybe you already know, we are in that process of shift of paradigm. What is a paradigm? This famous book from Thomas Kuhn that is always named, he spoke about paradigm, and which is the problem of paradigm? Read here. A paradigm is a major intellectual achievement that underlies normal science and attract and guide the work of an enduring number of adherents in their scientific activity. So it's a kind of super theory. When we get any knowledge, we put this knowledge into a frame, and this knowledge become a paradigm. And when we get this paradigm, become a sort of automatic and normal, and we don't know anymore that we have the paradigm. For example, imagine one of the bigger shift of paradigm was when the Earth was supposed to be flat and changed the paradigm thanks to the science, thanks to Galileo and so, the world became round. This was an enormous shift of paradigm, but since before, the paradigm was Earth is flat. And now we are facing this shift of paradigm from what we can call the mainstream paradigm, means the reductionist science, the positivist science, that reduce any activity, any research, any experience, reduce to matter, to the physical world, and get apart everything cannot be reduced to the material world. This is the paradigm of the science, still the dominant paradigm. Thanks to all this experience we're speaking about, thanks to the state of consciousness, thanks to the transpersonal experiences, a new paradigm is opening up. That is the holistic paradigm, the integral paradigm. What we are speaking about is the paradigm that starts from observation of ourselves as the paradigm of thinking, linear. When I shift to the observation, when I shift to the awareness, I can see that there is not only the dual mind, only this is this, that is that, but I can get the flowing, all the process, the complexity. I can get the systemic vision. I can get all the parts that are interconnected and are flowing in any moment. This is everything changing. Imagine a paradigm of science applied to research that knows that everything is flowing and changing. Everything is interconnected. There is no a linear process of cause and effect, but there are a lot of interaction that create the change, and that the part are not the whole. The whole is much more than the addiction of the parts. To get this more, that is more of the part, you can't get this through the mind, through the dual mind. You only can get through not ordinary state of consciousness. For not ordinary, in this case, we speak about the ability to be present in empty and in meditative states and so. In that way, from one side, there is the experience of observing, of getting the consciousness of unity, the capacity to get the interconnection. In the other side, there is the knowledge of a new paradigm and the building up of a new science, because it's not important. Not only I have experience that I see that everything is okay, how can I apply this experience to my real world? And how can I dialogue with others from this paradigm? How can pay the bill starting from this paradigm? Knowing this knowledge about the integral vision, about what we are reading, we read on Tarth, I can, from one side, have a sort of framework, a sort of paradigm, a behavior to act in my life as if I know that everything is interconnected, as if I know that subject and object is part of a wholeness, as if I know that the true nature of myself is emptiness. How can I find work? How can love my mate in this way? I can relate with my parents that way. This is what a scientific approach, a new transpersonal integral approach can help us. Not only to get the shift, not only waking up, but also growing up and cleaning up. Who is inside me that is attached to this pretext? Who is? Cleaning up means to see who is. And growing up is okay. So I can bring into the world not that girl inside me, but the wise woman. This is the growing up. And I wake up and I realize that I can go into the world observing. The last point I want to focus, it is very important because we speak about the 4 points of a science that are observation. And here there is the shift. I can observe the world, and this is a science. We could say the mainstream science. Or I can observe myself observing. This is essential science or a new science, an integral science. But observation is the first point. In the way I observe the world is the first point to get a scientific knowledge. The second point is the public nature of observation, means what I observe not only by the first attention, but also by the second attention. I observed and I saw that and that and that, and I saw the okay. How, if you want to have a scientific approach to life, that is not only to write scientific articles, but is also to communicate to the community something affordable, something that is sustainable. The second point is to the public nature of the observation. I should be able to communicate to others, to say to others, I did that way to get that knowledge. This is the second important point. You don't go to your friends and say, but everything is interconnected, everything is changing anyway, you don't need to. But not only, but you can also say, if you do this, you can see that. The third point is theorizing. This is most, if you want to share your knowledge, the theory, you remember, theory means contemplation. The theory is not something intellectual. The theory is, okay, I observe myself and I communicate. I observe myself and I put together the patterns, the regularity of what I saw. For example, I observe the world and I know that I am able to observe myself. Okay. Observing myself, I see that I have this experience of emptiness and fluidity and peace. Okay. Which are the patterns that let this happen? For example, stay in contact, disappear to yourself, let your breath flow, give up your thought, recognize who is using the pretext to judge something. And so these are some structures that you can put together in a theory. For example, the transpersonal vision or biotransenergetic methodology and so on. You put together something that you can share with the community. And the fourth point is testability. When you say something, as you said before, when you put together a theory, you should offer to the community also the capacity to test, offer all the kits of the behavior, the experience, to see and to verify what we are saying. These 4 points are something very important for the science if you want to become a scholar, but also for your ordinary life in a reduced form, but are the same. If you say something to someone, you should offer the possibility that what you say is coherent, is logical, and you offer to the person the capacity to verify what are you saying. Okay, and Tarth speak about state-specific science. Is everything we said until now. There is a science that observes the world, and there is a science that meditate on the world and observe themselves observing. There is another science. So we should, he was hoping in the 60s, a science linked with awareness, the science of the world of the awareness. Won't you say something about what I said? Translearning, just letting flow your felt sense, your feeling, your insight, your experience.
In a way, I mean, all science is observing, but the question is from which state of consciousness they observe.
Yes. First, no, but second is all science is observing, but observing the outer world. The shift is observing yourself, observing in which state of consciousness. In the state of consciousness of awareness, you enter in another world, and there is another science to build up. Can't be the science that reduces to the matter. This is perfect for everything we know, for building a quantic computer to go to Mars, to everything. But this is another science. We should have different state-specific science. If not, we enter the experiences, spiritual, transpersonal, integral experiences, and then since we see, no, this is not scientific, this is spiritual. But science is a knowledge that offers validity, offers the capacity to verify and to test. So why not to be scientific in that way?
I felt like the aspect of being able to express it clearly to the community is actually so key, especially because it's all very good for us to have an experience, but when we share it to other people, actually, and this goes with spiritual bypassing, for example, if you share it in a way, but actually what creates is the opposite effect, then it's telling yourself that you, even if you got the good effects, you've understood the process wrong. And so if in that sharing, you actually see that isn't how it works, it allows you to question your own experience, because just because you've experienced it, you may have understood it wrong. And so I feel like there's such a key importance in that sharing aspect.
This is the reason why I am offering to you this book, and I am very engaged with new epistemology, new science or methodology, because the moment you share, or the person had the experience as you, or the person doesn't understand, and you have to renounce to communicate. But if you know, and you are able to compare the paradigm, you are able to compare the two different epistemologies, we could say from the first attention or the second attention, from the observation or from the awareness, you know that you are speaking of two different points of view, first. And second, you know that you can say something to the people, create a theory to demonstrate, to let them know that there are two different paradigms in play. And confronting that paradigm, you can get an agreement and open the door to the communication.
Yeah, for me, there were two things which came up while listening. So first was when you spoke about observing yourself, like not observing the outside, but observing. And I read the text that was also written in the book, which was on the PowerPoint. I understood it, like what was written in the book. Before, I just read it, but now I'm like, what? That was also there, but I didn't see it in the book. And that was interesting that there's like so much more in it than what I was just like overreading or didn't see. And the other part is what I was thinking while you were explaining is because once we made an exercise in a big group of connecting to the light above, I would say like that. And then our teacher said, okay, then when you're connected, you can hear like a high vibrant tone. And I did hear that, like, and I often do it. And the higher I go, the more frequent it gets. I was really interested in how to combine that with Tart's approach, actually.
Yes, is one of the technologies to get that place. But now we do a practice. You close eyes. I am here at home. I already know that I can stay and recognize that I am at the source of my self, embraced by Mother Earth. We could say, I am like a mirror, and everything is happening inside. It's just a reflex of that mirror. I can observe not only what is happening outside me, but also what is happening inside. I am mirroring any thought, any feeling, any sensation is showing up. Okay, please come. I see you. Maybe you remember the movie Avatar. I see you. Here it is. I see you. I see you guys that you are thinking on what you will do later, or you are judging, or you are feeling. I see you. I accept to be at home, observing all the guests coming in. Any effort, I am like a mirror. There is no effort in a mirror, mirroring what is happening around and reflecting in. The same, I am here, relaxed in myself, embraced by the mother, by the surrounding, mirroring. And I can move a step forward. The contact means I persist in contact with what is happening. For example, I am here and a feeling appears. I not only observe, but also I go there and I stay in contact. Maybe I have a feeling in my chest, or I have the feeling of energy flowing. I have a thought in my mind or an image. I choose and I get in contact with something happening inside. Actively decide to get in contact and stay there. Staying there, I realize that a door opens. I realize that any emotion, any feeling, any image, any thought, even any judgment, even any tension, even any pain is a door. Staying there, the door opens and I enter a world. Any content of my consciousness is a world I can enter in. And thanks to the persistence of contact, I can walk in, look around, get knowledge and healing, get the medicine of that content, of that emotion, of that feeling or memory or everything is flowing. I stay and I get knowledge of that word that is coming and showing up. I understand the persistence of contact hides many secrets, opens many doors. Contain a lot of knowledge and medicine. As always, I open my eyes with no interruption. I am not practicing, I am only be aware of something. I keep in contact with what is happening, and everything is happening. With the first attention, I put attention to the others. With the second attention, I stay in contact. Just few words to share what I am experiencing.
I feel there is also a lot the ability to stay with paradox, as I feel like there is a big question that is almost, I feel it physically, that it is with me for a few days. And there's no resolution for it because I do not know the answer, but I feel it and that it doesn't go away. So it's interesting. Yeah.
Keep in contact. Everything is flowing. Trust into the process at the right moment.
Very magical place, and I see like colors, like streams of colors, and layer of peace. Like there is nothing.
The most you can find is nothing. The best that you can find is nothing. Be there and let happen what is needed to happen. Colors, streams, peace. What else? What do you want more? What are you looking for?
I was listening, but I couldn't hear you. It's like I was hearing the words, but my mind couldn't hear any words. And I noticed that I was getting a little bit frustrated, but I noticed that there was a Sufi chant in my head, Ishkala Mabulila. And I was almost like getting frustrated that I could hear you, but I couldn't hear what you were saying until I just went, and I just heard the chant, which means God, lover, and beloved. And in that moment, it was just like a surrender. And it's like realizing that the moment wasn't for me to hear your words. My moment was to already surrender into that. And I was fighting it.
Yes, exactly. By staying, you see, anything doesn't matter goes, and you find what there is and what is needed in the moment by staying, because it's so simple to understand. To change something, you have to stay in contact. The more you stay in contact, if it is true that everything is flowing, if you stay in contact, by staying there is the best way to let the process. And the process maybe take other ways that you are thinking. You want to listen to me, but you need to pass to the surrender. So stay. And you see. You would like to your chest open up, but maybe by staying there, you have to get a lesson on the paradox. For example, stay. Give up this nothing. Staying. By staying, you see that you don't need to get some colorful or strange thing to be at home and to be well and to love you.